Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. mypillow.com. Promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in. Here's what we have to cover today. Former President Joe Biden took shots at the Trump administration. Joe is back at his old habits of politics of fear. Joe hasn't changed a bit. He took shots at the administration's Social Security policies in his first major speech since leaving the White House back in January. New York Attorney General Letitia James has been hit with allegations by the Trump administration accusing her of mortgage fraud. The Attorney General is about to find herself on the wrong side of the courtroom. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says that they will fight a judge's order that delays the return of some 500,000 migrants allowed to come into the country in the final days of the Biden administration. And President Donald Trump says he wants to give money and an airplane ticket to any immigrant who is in the country illegally and chooses to self-deport and work to get those who are good back in the U.S.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Former President Joe Biden back out on the speaking stump, taking shots at the Trump administration. He was at the ACRD conference, which was billed as the 46th president's first public speech since leaving the White House. Biden, however, has delivered other public remarks since January 20th. There's been a couple, like speaking before the National High School Model United Nations in March, which received little media attention, as well as joining an International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers event this past month. ACRD, though, is an advocacy organization that works to equip disability professionals with the tools, technology, and training to lead the industry forward, according to their website. Joe couldn't help himself, since he can't talk about anything positive that he accomplished in 4 years in office. He has to continue to bash Donald Trump and continues to do what he does best, spread politics of fear, misinformation, and just downright lies at times.
Got to ask yourself, why is this happening? Why are these guys taking aim at Social Security now? Well, they're following that old line from tech startups. The quote is, move fast, break things. Well, they're certainly breaking things. They're shooting first and aiming later. And as a result, the result is a lot of needless pain and sleepless nights. My friend Governor O'Malley knows what they're really up to. He says, and I love his quote, they want to wreck it so they can rob it. They want to wreck it so they can rob it. And why do they want to rob it? In order to deliver huge tax cuts to billionaires and big corporations and keep it going. They want to make permanent the 2017 tax cuts, which overwhelmingly benefited the wealthiest Americans and the biggest corporations. That's going to cost $5 trillion. Where are they going to get $5 trillion to pay for it, other than continue to run the deficit up? Well, where they always do, by running up the national debt, number one, and then by taking the money from someplace else. What are the two big pots of money out there in raw numbers? Social Security and Medicaid. Well, from other programs that people rely on and have paid into. Republicans, or these guys, are willing to hurt the middle class and the working class in order to deliver significant greater wealth to the already very wealthy. Who in the hell do they think they are? I really think just basic decency. Who do they think they are?
Well, I can answer that one there for you, Joe. I'll tell you who they are. Donald Trump is the guy who pushed you out of the presidential race last year, remember? He beat you in a presidential debate so badly that you decided you'd better drop out. Or better yet, your party pushed you out. That's who they are, Joe. The same people who realized that we had 4 years too much of Joe Biden. And you stand there and you have the nerve to talk about who do they think they are when you're just made up half of your speech? You know good and well, Joe Biden, that Donald Trump is not going to touch Social Security benefits. But just like you did last year and just like Kamala Harris tried to, it didn't work, by the way. Those talking points did not work because the American people don't believe it. Biden's keynote address, which lasted for a little less than an hour, tried to focus on his accomplishments with Social Security when he was president. But it was more of taking aim at how the Trump administration, according to Biden, is keeping the elderly up at night with worry over their Social Security benefits, as well as cracking a few jokes about his decades in politics. None of it was funny. Now, here's what he focused on. The Trump administration has cut about 7,000 Social Security Administration staffers since taking office as part of its missions to cut government fat, to cut the bureaucracy, realign agencies with America First policies. Democrats have slammed Trump over the cuts, claiming that he will cut Social Security benefits to seniors. The White House has repeatedly rejected the claims. The White House says that the Trump administration will cut such benefits, vowing to always protect Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid benefits, but they'll be able to find some savings in other parts, like the 7,000 plus bloated agency. Biden continued that the Trump administration is allegedly looking to wreck Social Security to rob it, as you heard him say, suggesting that Trump needs money to extend the tax cuts, so he's going to take money from the Social Security. This is an old ploy. It's a tired ploy. It's a ploy that I just don't think people believe. Do you believe it? Does it concern you? I'd love to talk to my listeners who have Social Security benefits coming in now. You're on Social Security. Are you concerned at all that Donald Trump is going to cut your benefits? Is that a concern at all? Have you heard him say anything that would lead you to think that he's going to cut benefits? Text me, email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. You can call, leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Always use promo code Joey. When you go to MyPillow.com, you'll get the very best price on every single product. Former Senator Debbie Stabenow from Michigan and former Democrat Social Security Administrator and Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley was at the event as well. O'Malley presented Biden with the ACRD's Beacon of Hope Award for his accomplishments as president, including his leadership during the COVID-19 pandemic and fighting for the dignity of every person. Biden added that the nation is divided under Trump and can't continue on the same path. Now, that's interesting, too, that this guy who truly divided our country is standing there complaining now that Donald Trump has divided our country in a couple months being in office. At one point, Biden said, we can't go on like this as a divided nation, as divided as we are. I said, I've been doing this a long time. It's never been this divided. Yeah, well, Mr. Former President, you divided the nation. That's why we're where we are right now. And Donald Trump is trying to straighten it out. Donald Trump is trying to right the ship. He's trying to undo all the harm that you and Kamala Harris did in 4 years. The Trump administration's official Social Security X account hit back after Biden's speech, saying that Biden is lying to Americans before providing a detailed list of facts, including that Trump has repeatedly pledged to protect benefits and that no field office has been closed since January the 20th. It's just that simple. They said SSA is taking common sense steps to transform how we serve the public. Last month, we spent $16.5 million to modernize telephone services nationwide. We're developing cutting-edge AI-powered tools to streamline simple tasks. The Social Security Inspector General report released while Joe Biden was president found $72 billion in improper payments from fiscal years 2015 through 2022. They're trying to modernize the office so this doesn't happen again. Hi, Joey Hudson here. You know, this spring there's a renewed energy and focus on efficiencies, and shaking up unhealthy habits don't serve us well. There's so much chatter about making America great again, but it starts in your home with you being the best, healthiest version of yourself. And PhD Weight Loss is doing their part because for the first time ever, the first 11 callers get 2 free weeks added to your weight loss program. That is huge. PhD's out to prove that you don't need Big Pharma to reach your goals. It just creates dependency, not long-term change. Dr. Ashley Lucas researched weight loss trends for years and discovered a scientifically proven way to retrain your body to burn fat efficiently without hunger, extreme exercise, or dangerous medications. PhD clients watch their belly fat disappear, their energy skyrocket, cholesterol and blood pressure normalize without starving themselves. I lost over 30 pounds and I've never felt better. So call now and mention promo code Joey for my 2 weeks for free with my program. Call 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900 or go to myphdweightloss.com. So it's like one step forward and 2 steps back as the Trump administration continues to try to follow through on President Trump's biggest campaign promise, and that's to close our border and to deport the illegals who are here, terrorizing U.S. cities and their law-abiding citizens. As if it's not hard enough to do this, we continue to have these Democrat-appointed liberal leftist judges fighting the president every step of the way. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem announced that the administration has reversed a decision made by the Biden administration literally as they were leaving office, which would extend the temporary status of over 500,000 migrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. These illegals were flown into the states by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and Secretary Mayorkas, in his final days in office, tried to extend the welcome mat, if you will, and keep Trump from returning them to their home countries. But Secretary Noem says, nope, it's time for them to go home.
Well, before he left town, Mayorkas signed an order that said for 18 months they were going to extend this protection to people that are on temporary protected status, which meant they were going to be able to stay here and violate our laws for another 18 months, and we stopped that. Today we signed an executive order within the Department of Homeland Security in a direction that we were not going to follow through on what he did to tie our hands, that we are going to follow the process, evaluate all of these individuals that are in our country, including the Venezuelans that are here and members of TDA. Listen, I was in New York City yesterday, and the people of this country want these dirtbags out. They want their communities to be safe. It was so amazing to me to see people walk by us on the street early in the morning and just say, thank you. Thank you for being here. So this is part of our plan to make sure that we're protecting America, keeping it safe again, just like President Trump promised.
And as always, the Democrats are objecting. Listen to some of the objections. Brandon Johnson, mayor of Chicago, saying that he will protect the rights of these illegals. Illinois Governor J.D. Pritzker also saying that his state will protect these, quote, law-abiding citizens in his state. I guess he forgets that they came here illegally. And then there's the Attorney General of New York, Letitia James. She, too, seems to believe illegals have rights.
Stand together firmly in our welcoming city status. The type of fear that this administration is trying to incite, we are demonstrating that we are going to protect the residents of this city.
It is performative theater, and it's nothing more than shock and awe.
Our local law enforcement will stand up for those law-abiding, undocumented people in our state.
Law-abiding, undocumented people. Now, how does he know that they're law-abiding if they're undocumented? He probably doesn't even know who they are or where they are. Well, not so fast, because these Democrats may get their way temporarily. Let's take a minute to talk about this program. At issue were migrants allowed into the U.S. by former Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, who set up a secondary immigration system through parole powers. Previously, parole had been used to allow migrants who had urgent humanitarian issues, such as an emergency medical need, or who presented a benefit to the U.S., such as helping on a criminal investigation. Mr. Mayorkas stretched that to cover more than 500,000 migrants from Venezuela, Cuba, Haiti, and Nicaragua who lacked legal authorization to enter. So they just opened the door and said, come on in. We're going to give you a pass. Parole gave them a 2-year permission to remain without fear of deportation, as well as a chance to compete for our jobs, to take Americans' jobs from them. Biden officials had justified the program, it's known as CHNV, by saying that it was needed to take pressure off of the Border Patrol. Now, Donald Trump has proven that's not the case already. Donald Trump has proven that if you put and allow Border Patrol to do their job, they'll stop the flow. Plus the fact, all you have to do is let the people who are considering coming in, let them know they're not welcome, and if they come, they're going to be deported. And that turns them away pretty quickly. To claim CHNV status, migrants had to secure a sponsor in the U.S. and would then fly into an airport, bypassing the southern border, just straight to whatever city this so-called sponsor was in. Now, as you can imagine, the program was plagued with fraud. Lots of opportunities here. The Washington Times reported that welfare recipients, criminals, and even sex traffickers may have been using the program to sneak people into the U.S. Dead people, gang members, and even someone using former First Lady Michelle Obama's passport number were among those who applied to be sponsors. Now, the Trump administration decided to revoke the parole. And as you heard Secretary Noem talk about, we got to get these people out of our country. The Trump team had argued that the Biden administration stretched parole powers too far and that they were restoring the situation back to normal. Well, Judge Indira Tawani, an Obama-appointed judge to the court in Massachusetts, last night ordered that the government not move ahead with the cancellations and to discredit the notices already sent to many of these hundreds of thousands of people affected. Basically, we have to go back and say, whoops, hold on a minute, we acted too quickly here. You can stay for a while longer until these judges work this out. Judge Talwani said that the administration can't issue such a blanket revocation and instead, get this, needs to make an individualized assessment of each case. So basically, we have to review all 500,000 of these individually to determine if, in fact, they should be allowed to stay. The judge said that at the very least, these migrants should be allowed to live out their current parole periods without fearing deportation. Here's what she said in her order. Defendants have offered no substantial reason or public interest that justifies forcing individuals who were granted parole into the United States for a specified duration to leave or move into undocumented status in advance of the original date their parole was set to expire. The judge said instead, the early termination, without any case-by-case justification of legal status for non-citizens who have complied with DHS programs and entered the country lawfully, undermines the rule of law. Now, she's forgotten that the rule of law also says that these folks aren't supposed to be here. I'm not so sure that the Biden administration didn't undermine the rule of law when they stretched this program to begin with. But I get back to the question that I've asked many times, and maybe you can help me out with this. Email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Text me. Leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY. Why do these federal judges feel like that they need to protect these illegals more than they need to protect American citizens? Why would they want these people in our country? I just don't get it. I have a hard time wrapping my brain around this. Why any of these Democrat officials? Why would the governor of Illinois want these people to remain in his state? Why would the mayor of Chicago want these people, some of whom are criminals, in his city? Does it make sense to you? Help me out here. On the text line, Faye writes, Joey, in my entire life, I've never seen American journalists pleading to keep terrorists in our country and want these put at the top. Steve Bannon and MTG both have made wonderful, truthful speeches this week for all to hear. Those who choose to follow AOC and Bernie Sanders will find their yellow brick road leads to complete destruction of the U.S. Once we have crossed the Rubicon. There will be no way to go back. Americans, wake up. Thank you, Faye. Appreciate your comments. Speaking of waking up, New York Attorney General Letitia James got a wake-up call yesterday. She's been hit with allegations by the Trump administration accusing her of mortgage fraud. Here's the story. In documents obtained by Fox News, the Federal Housing Finance Agency sent a criminal referral to the Department of Justice accusing James of mortgage fraud this yesterday. The FHFA Director William Pulte said in a letter to Attorney General Pound Bondi that James appears to have falsified records to meet certain lending requirements and receive favorable loan terms. Now, you know, this is the exact same thing that she accused the Trump organization of doing, that she accused Donald Trump and prosecuted Donald Trump of doing. Pulte cited a property in Virginia that James allegedly claimed as her principal residence and a property in New York she claimed as a 4-unit structure instead of 5, which he said could mean she was able to get a different and more favorable loan. Now, how do you own how is a primary residence in Virginia and you're the Attorney General of New York? Somebody explain that one for me. Fox News contributor and George Washington University law professor Jonathan Turley said that he was talking with Laura Ingram, that the irony of James getting accused of falsifying records is perfectly crushing. He said this is a person who prosecuted, just as I was saying a minute ago, prosecuted Trump for everything short of ripping a label off a mattress, and among the charges that were brought in New York in just a civil case, but the criminal case was making false or misleading statements to financial institutions. Turley went on to say, as for James, if we apply the Letitia James standard that she created, there'd be little question here. This seems pretty straightforward. He explained that the Trump administration is saying that this was not her principal residence because, as a New York elected official, she has to say her principal residence is in New York. James is also accused of saying that her father, get this now, she said that her father was her husband so that she could file as a married couple. The Supreme Court just stated earlier in March in a case called Thompson that they want to see knowing false statements under sections like 10 through 14, not just misleading statements, Turley said. These are misleading statements. Either it's your principal residence or it's not. Either you're married to your father or he's your father. You can't have it both ways. The issue has been prosecuted in the past, but as Turley said on the Ingram angle, the documents themselves are quite damning. Retired NYPD inspector Paul Morrow said that he first reported the allegations against James on Substack almost 10 weeks ago. He said the documents presented by Sam Antar and the research he's done appear entirely authentic, in which case Attorney General James appears to have engaged in the very sort of fraud which she alleged in her ludicrous case against Donald Trump. Let's see now if indeed, as Attorney General James has stated herself, nobody is above the law. You think she'll apply this to herself? You think she will try to get out of this by claiming that she is above the law? She's not going to say it in those words, but she's going to try her best to she'll turn this into a race issue. She'll turn this into that she's being prosecuted because she's black. Wait and see. The New York Post reported that the documents show that the property James purchased with her father had both parties listed as husband and wife. How sick is that? Pulte reportedly wrote, while this was a long time ago, it raises serious concerns about the validity of Ms. James's representation on mortgage applications. James brought forth a civil fraud suit against President Trump, the Trump organizations, and its senior leadership in 2022, frequently sitting in the courtroom throughout the proceedings and celebrating the prosecution of Trump in the Manhattan criminal trial over the 34 counts of falsifying business records. Trump, in that case, was ordered to pay $454 million civil fraud judgment in James's lawsuit against him, which is currently under appeal. So far in 2025, James has spearheaded at least 5 legal actions against the Trump administration, including a leading coalition of state attorney general to sue the federal government to halt DOJ's access to the Treasury Department's internal systems, and another lawsuit related to the Trump administration slashing grant funding to research institutions and universities. Now, she's going to claim, of course, in addition to that it's racism probably, she's also going to claim that this is retaliation, that the Trump administration and the Trump Department of Justice is only going after her to get back at her because she prosecuted the president. We'll see. In a kind of different tone yesterday, President Donald Trump said he wants to give money and an airplane ticket to any immigrant who is in the country illegally who chooses to self-deport, and that this will work towards potentially coming back in the U.S. to work a good job. Trump, who, of course, campaigned on the pledge to carry out mass deportation, said in a taped interview that aired yesterday that his administration is focused right now on getting murderers out of the country. But for the others in the U.S. illegally, he said he's going to implement a self-deportation program. Trump offered few details about the plan, including the timing, but said the U.S. could provide immigrants airfare and a stipend. Basically, it looks like we're going to pay them to go back home. I'm not quite sure how I feel about that. They came into our country illegally. A lot of them have been on the dole ever since. They've been using our services, our health care, in some cases receiving social benefits, benefits that probably deprived other Americans from receiving. In some cases, as you know, they've been getting free housing. Some got cards, debit cards with $5,000 on them, free cell phones. Life's been pretty good. Now we're going to pay them to go back. Trump said, we're going to give them a stipend. We're going to give them some money and a plane ticket. And then we're going to work with them. If they're good, if we want them back in, we're going to work with them to get them back in as quickly as we can. And he referenced the idea of them working in the agricultural fields, needing them on the farms and the ranches. Rachel Campos Duffy, who is married to Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, played Trump a clip of a Mexican man who she said arrived in the U.S. illegally more than 20 years ago and has children who are American citizens. It's not clear if the man now has legal permission to be in the country, but Campos Duffy said that the man said that even though he cannot vote, he would have supported Trump. She played a clip of the man saying that he agrees that if someone commits a crime, they should be returned to their countries, including himself. Trump replied, I'll look at this man. I say, this is the guy we want to keep. I'll probably take heat for it. The president also said he wants to help hotels and farms get the workers they need and recommended people to fill needed positions. This is a bit of a change of attitude. You agree? It's like Trump, someone is telling Trump that, hey, we got to back off a bit here because we're going to need some of this manpower. We need some of these people working on the farms. We're coming into the growing season, and we need someone. We're going to need these people picking strawberries, for example. You think that's part of it? Trump said that it would be very soothing to farmers, and said he ultimately wants workers who are in the U.S. illegally to leave and come back with legal permission, but he did not outline the steps on how that would be accomplished. He said, we're doing a self-deportation. We're going to make it comfortable for people, and we're going to work with those people to come back legally. And I get that. If they come back legally, I'm all for it. It's just this is a bit of a change of an attitude. But, hey, that's typical Trump. And that's one of the things that I admire about the man. We saw it in the tariffs. You start down a path, you realize that, hey, maybe we need to slow down a bit here. We need to reevaluate this for the betterment of the country. And maybe this is what he's thinking on some of these workers. We'll see. Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Firmin Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Firmin Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Firmin Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Firmin, Matthew Firmin. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Firmin Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Firmin Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Firmin Ford online at firminford.com, firminford.com. Veteran Democrat strategist James Carville once again is stirring the pot, not with Republicans, within his own party. He suggested this week that the progressive wing of the Democrat Party should consider an amicable split due to what he calls the damaging effects of pronoun politics. In a blunt conversation on his Politics War Room podcast, Mr. Carville expressed frustration over how identity politics, particularly gender identity issues, have influenced the Democrat Party's messaging. Carville said, "I don't think we can work together on pronoun politics. This election did not teach you how damaging that is. I don't think there's anything that I can tell you." Now, he acknowledged that younger, more progressive voices may view him as outdated. Carville proposed a schism or split within the party where progressives operate under a different banner, at least during campaign season. He said, maybe we can have a kind of an agreeable split here. You go your way, we go our way, and after the election, we come together and see how much common ground we can find. He argued that progressive factions like the Justice Democrats, the Working Families Party, and others often more on intra-party fights than challenging Republicans. His message to those groups, just don't use the word Democrat in any title that you have. Carville's comments come as Democrats attempt to unify ahead of the 2026 midterms and to go back and try to figure out what happened, how they lost so miserably in 2024. I think Carville kind of has an idea. I think he understands why America rejected the Democrat Party as they did in 2024. In wake of the recent losses and shifting demographics, Carville has previously warned that the party's overemphasis on woke or identity-driven issues could alienate key voting blocks, particularly in battleground states. That's what we saw happen in 2024. And if they keep talking, and look, I hope they ignore James Carville. I hope they totally keep on the same path that they're on today. And hey, after hearing Joe Biden's speech yesterday, I think they are. If he is still the leader of the Democrat Party, I hope that they put him out front and he's out there every day talking the politics of fear. Now, this isn't new territory for Carville. This guy rose to fame as the mastermind behind Bill Clinton's 1992 campaign. He's positioned himself as a centrist Democrat who prioritizes electability over ideology. And that's exactly what he proved with Bill Clinton. His latest remarks, though, underline this growing rift between the Democrat Party's establishment and its progressive flank, a tension that could have serious implications as Democrats try to come up with what a post-Biden political landscape looks like. Let me say again, I hope they just completely ignore James Carville and they rack this up to some old man who doesn't know what he's talking about, some has-been from long ago, because he's actually right. And if the Democrats find a way to put the progressives in their own place, they may have a chance. They may be competitive in 2026. Let's hope not. This next story has a ironic twist to it. You remember the name Gary Shapley? He was the IRS employee who testified to Congress as Republicans reviewed the business dealings of Joe Biden's favorite son, Hunter. Said he was retaliated against for cooperating in the investigation. He's considered an IRS whistleblower who took a very front row seat to the Hunter Biden tax issue. Well, guess what? He gets the final laugh because he's expected to be promoted to the IRS acting commissioner. Two sources familiar with the idea told the Associated Press, and the Associated Press reported yesterday. In March, Shapley was promoted to Deputy Chief of IRS Criminal Investigations, and another IRS investigator who testified about Biden's taxes, Joseph Ziegler, was assigned to the Treasury Secretary's office as a senior advisor for IRS reform. Now, the IRS is planning to name Shapley as one of the highest-ranking roles at the agency in an interim role, as former Missouri Congressman Billy Long awaits a confirmation hearing to lead the agency permanently. They were not authorized to speak publicly about the plan, but they say this is going to happen. President Trump nominated Long, who worked as an auctioneer before serving 6 terms in the House of Representatives, to serve as the next commissioner of the IRS. Shapley replaces Melanie Krause, who is resigning from her role as acting IRS commissioner over a deal to share immigrants' tax data with Immigration and Customs Enforcement to identify and deport people illegally in the U.S. CNN originally reported the news about Shapley's new role. A representative from the IRS did not respond to the Associated Press request for comment. Of course they didn't. Now, just as a little review here, both Shapley and Joseph Ziegler say that they were removed from the Hunter Biden case in December of 2022 after they told their bosses that the Justice Department and former Delaware U.S. Attorney David Weiss had engaged in a pattern of slow-walking investigative steps and delaying enforcement actions in the months before the 2020 presidential election won by Democrat Joe Biden. And as we know, the investigation into Hunter Biden ended when Daddy Joe pardoned his son, sparing Hunter from possible prison sentences for federal felony gun and tax convictions and reversing his past promises not to use the extraordinary powers of the presidency to benefit his family. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.